Hey friends, it's Sandra here from Here in Ridge. Thanks for joining me again today in the greenhouse. It looks a little bit different in here today because I've actually brought you back to one of our production greenhouses. These aren't greenhouses that are open to the public, partly because they're not very shoppable. They have no benches in them. As you can see, we're growing the plants on the ground. But there are greenhouses that we grow our plants in and ship out either to our own retail area or to the independent garden centers that we ship to as well. At any rate, I was actually going to talk to you today about planting and growing asparagus because our asparagus crowns have arrived here at the greenhouse. Asparagus isn't that really hard to grow. It takes a little bit of work to prep the area and get it ready to grow, but once your patch is established, it's really very maintenance free aside from occasional weeding. So here I brought the crowns for you to show you. You can see this guy's actually already starting to sprout a little asparagus, and these are the roots. They're quite large. And these are called asparagus crowns. These asparagus crowns are 2-year-old crowns. So they were planted probably as seeds last year and then harvested this year so that you can grow them. So when we're talking about these crowns, these are a 2nd-year crown, okay? Normally when you're growing asparagus, you can't harvest anything from the crown until it's at least 3 years old, okay? So, but this is a 2-year-old crown already, so that's a little bit of information there. Before you even plant your crowns, you need to prep the area where they're going to grow. It's very important that the soil is weed and grass free, so that may take a little bit of work. It's worth the effort. Asparagus has a hard time competing with other plants like that, so it's worth the extra effort. If you've got a really weedy area that you want to use, you might even want to consider getting that ground clear of weeds for a whole year before you put your crowns in. Just a thought. When I planted my crowns, I put them into an existing vegetable garden, so it was relatively weed-free, and I didn't worry about that step. So it's really up to you what you think is best. Now, these varieties of asparagus this is a Jersey Night asparagus, and it needs to be planted approximately 12 inches deep. So what you're going to do is dig a trench. It needs to be 12 inches deep, 12 inches wide, and the asparagus crowns need to be spaced to about 18 inches, which kind of makes sense because till you spread those roots out, when you plant them, you spread the roots out, and they're going to almost overlap even at 18 inches to the center, okay? So you're talking about putting this part, which is the crown where the little asparagus is growing out of, needs to be 18 inches to the next crown, okay? And then you're going to fan out the roots in that trench. Once you get them out, before you put them in your trench though, put in some composted manure, whether you want to buy like composted sheep manure or hen manure pellets, something. You want to make sure that soil is nice and rich for them before you even put the crowns in there. And then, like I said, you're going to lay them in the trench 18 inches apart with the crown facing up, okay? So this is growth, not a root. So I know sometimes when we're planting things, you think about putting the root down. This is not the root. This is the asparagus. So the crown faces up, the roots fan out, and then you're going to cover them with 4 to 6 inches of soil. So that means you're still going to have the appearance of a trench in your garden because you dug a 12-inch deep hole and you're only filling it in 1/3 to 1/2, okay? You're going to water them in really well, and as they start to send up these shoots, you're going to keep covering them up until your trench is level, okay? So it's going to take a little bit of time till you get all those shoots up and get them all covered in, but that's what you're going to do the first year. And the hard part is the first year, I don't want you to pick any asparagus, which I know is hard because they're there and they look so delicious, and they probably are delicious, but you need to leave those shoots on the asparagus the first year because they are what is going to nourish and feed this crown and make those roots strong and help you to have a viable asparagus patch. In the fall, there's going to be the growth on my asparagus gets to be almost 6 feet tall, I would say. It's taller than me, yeah, so it's probably 6 feet tall. And as the frost comes, it just gets brown and gross looking. No big deal. In the fall, I would encourage you though to cut it off at the ground and take it out of the garden. It's not going to damage the crowns if you leave it there, but it does provide a habitat for some unwanted pests like asparagus beetle to winter over. So by getting rid of that, you're just less likely to have those problems. So get rid of the dead growth at the end of the season, start fresh next year. And definitely your first year, keep it watered. Well, every year, keep it watered. You're going to have more healthy crowns. You're going to have a better produce. You're going to get a better yield from your patch if you keep your asparagus watered. Naturally, they kind of grow in swampy areas, so having that more moist soil will be a benefit to your asparagus crop. Now, that's first year. So you're going to plant them and not eat them first year. Next year, these crowns are going to be considered a 3-year-old crown. So at that point, you can harvest them for up to 2 weeks. I would really encourage you though to limit your harvest to that for the exact same reason as this year. You want to let enough spears grow up so that they can nourish and feed this crown to really make sure you have a good established patch. After that, year 4 and beyond, you can eat so much asparagus. It's amazing to me. So last year, we have approximately 15 asparagus crowns in our garden. I have a pretty large family. There's 5 of us that like to eat it, and we can hardly eat it all. We have so much asparagus, and I honestly can pick it like handfuls of it every 2 to 3 days. So we eat it breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I've figured out a million different ways to cook and prepare asparagus. It's a fantastic crop, and we pick for probably at least 6 weeks, and it's just amazing how much asparagus you can get. So it is worth the effort. If you can be patient and put the time into it for the first couple years, your asparagus crop will be phenomenal. As long as you've done the groundwork, you've put it in a sunny location, you've kept it watered, and you're keeping it weed free. Maintenance is going to be important, and you can't use anything like a rototiller or a garden claw because digging deep in amongst these roots is really going to damage them, and that's not going to have the wanted effect at all. You're going to have to pull those weeds by hand and take the extra time to take care of them. Mulching can definitely help. If you put some mulch on these asparagus, it'll help maintain the lower amount of weeds, but honestly, not that hard of a crop to grow and well worth the effort. If you have any questions, please leave them below in the comments. I'll be happy to get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks so much for watching.